What are the telltale signs of someone who's being trafficked? I know with the Super Bowl, they say that's obviously the sex industry goes off anytime that happens. I feel like it's always in the news, and just traveling internationally, there have been almost like public service announcements of what to look for. What do you see? Are you like, you noticed a 12-year-old girl and said you knew? So how can we know when we're traveling, when we're on vacation in other parts of the world?
A couple thoughts. That's a really good question. One thought is that every trafficking survivor will tell you that they would have made sure that nobody knew they were being trafficked when they were being trafficked. And so the idea that we can all just kind of get this new pair of glasses that will enable us to see when people are being trafficked, I don't think is very realistic. I think that it's very, very difficult to detect trafficking situations, and that's partly why we developed an entire curriculum and manual to educate people, because it is very, it's difficult, and so, but the other thing to say about that is just to understand that anywhere where there's demand, there's going to be trafficking happening. And it doesn't always look like what we think it's going to look like. But demand is everywhere today, right? Because of the hardwiring of the planet through the internet, and the mass spread of pornography is awakening this illicit sexuality. And so men are, by the droves, not a few bad apples here and there, but there is a cultural reality taking shape around the nations of men looking for sex on demand, prostitution. And so anytime that's happening, there are going to be third-party interested parties who are exploiting that demand for profit. And so, like in Las Vegas, is a city that's iconic for the idea of the high-class escort. But we did a documentary on that, which we haven't released yet, but the reality is that it's all an undercurrent of trafficking, and the people in prostitution, they're told us, like, even if somebody had the bright idea that they're going to come here and be this independent, free agent, high-class escort, they would get immediately taken by a pimp. It just won't happen. Like, it's an extremely naive thing to believe that could happen when there's this whole infrastructure of organized crime that's running this. And you think those guys are just going to allow you to go do that? Like, no, that's not going to happen. And so, but like I said, it has different, it looks different in different places. In Kansas City, there was a bust where there was a stepfather who had worked out an agreement with a local, it was this, one of those places you see on the side of the freeway that like sells DVDs and stuff, XXX Video or whatever. Well, that place had a basement, and this stepfather made an agreement to allow men to come down there and purchase his 14-year-old stepdaughter for sex. So he had a train of these men coming, 25 men, before he was busted. But that was just one instance of one thing that we know about where would anybody look at that guy and go, oh, here's a trafficker? No. But he was exploiting the vulnerability of his stepdaughter for profit. That's trafficking. Right. And so it has many shapes and faces, and it looks different in different cities. I think the important thing for people to understand is that in all likelihood, trafficking is going on in your city. In all likelihood, there is a demand. There is trafficking going on. I mean, there's an organization out of Kansas City that we've done some work with where they started to go into communities, church communities, school communities, and to educate people about the predatory tactics of traffickers and the way that they prey on and groom young women to go into prostitution. Every single one of these communities they went into, while they were doing this training, it turned out that there were currently people in that community who were being groomed to be trafficked and did not know it. There was one pimp who said, these girls have no chance against a guy like me because we eat, sleep, think, dream, breathe ways to take advantage of them and get them to do what we want. So these guys are literally spending, it's hard to transport ourselves into a criminal mindset like that. Like we're, you know, most of us are not thinking at home, how can I go online and coerce a 14-year-old girl by the time she's 16 to come work for me in the strip club, you know, and bring all the money home. Like, it's just not, you know, it's not on our radar. But for the men who have crossed that threshold into a criminal way of life, that is what they're doing. They are, and so they're working overtime to figure out how to exploit those vulnerabilities. And so it's very difficult to say, like, just this or that will, you know, help you spot somebody who's being trafficked. It goes a bit deeper than that. You know, there are situations, you know, and you can see it more overtly in places like Eastern Europe, where we came across situations where it's like, oh, okay, that's a certain situation where somebody's clearly being trafficked. Right. But I think people over here in the West tend to be a little bit more careful. But there are, I mean, go out to any track in any city, and it's not hard to find the pimps. I mean, they're out there. And but again, I mean, it's such a huge can of worms to open, and that's why we do the training. We're launching our first ever abolition training intensive school this summer. Actually, it's in this September, up in Lake Tahoe. We're only bringing in a smaller group for this, of people that can apply to come to it, but it's going to be it's called Activate. It's going to be a very hands-on, week-long training in Lake Tahoe on how to fight trafficking for people who are very, very serious about it. It's not for the conference goer. It's for the person who knows they want to be a career abolitionist. Wow. And so for anybody that's interested in that, again, just track with us on Exodus Cry, and we're going to be issuing an announcement for that, an application for people to fill out that would like to be involved. And we're going to have, it's going to be an amazing week.
That's awesome.